Yes, good evening, ma'am. As per your feedback, I am making a short video explaining the concepts in part 4 of task sheet. And the part 4 is about explain how classes can define different roles for objects to play. How does this relate to the core principle of abstraction? Yes. So basically, in OOPS, classes define different roles by giving objects specific responsibilities. For example, in the banking system, which I did in task, the account class manages about account details and balances, and the withdraw transaction class handles withdrawal operations. The deposit transaction class handles deposit operations, and the transfer transaction class manages money transfer between accounts. Each class performs one specific task instead of doing everything in a single class. This makes the program more organized and easier to manage. This relates to the concept of abstraction because abstraction hides unnecessary internal details and only shows the important functionality to the user. For example, when we call the execute method of a transaction, we do not need to know every internal step which is happening inside the class. We only know the transaction is being processed correctly. So we can say that abstraction helps us by reducing complexity and hiding implementation details, which is very complex details, and allowing user to focus only on required functionality. So yes, this was the first answer of the first question, and now we should move on to second question, which is asking how does encapsulation relate to transfer transaction class. From an external perspective, do we know that it uses other objects internally to perform tasks on its behalf? So we start with encapsulation. Encapsulation means binding that data and methods together inside a class and protecting internal implementation details from outside access. So in the transfer transaction class, which is asked here, encapsulation is used because the class internally manages a withdraw transaction object and also a deposit transaction object. The internal user does not directly control these internal objects. Instead, the user simply creates a transfer transaction object and call methods like execute, rollback, and print. From an external perspective, we do not really need to know how the transfer is internally completed. We only care that money is transferred correctly, validations works properly, and the transaction succeeds or fails safely. This is advantage of encapsulation as it hides internal working, and it also improves security and reduces complexity and makes the system easier to maintain. So the transfer transaction class internally uses other transaction objects, but this implementation detail is hidden from the user, which is a very complex detail as I mentioned in question first. So thank you.